All right, Miss Cara. So we're going to talk about DIY today,
Yeah,
right? I
I love
mean,
it.
your videos are amazing. By the way, I subscribed and I love these videos. I was telling my wife about it, and she was like, I actually may be into this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's like addicting. Once you get started, it's kind of hard to pull away. So be careful.
Be careful.
It's
Be
too
careful.
fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, I read a little bit about your story, but I think it'd be good for listeners to know how you got into this.
Yeah. Okay. So the windiest path ever, but I'll keep it brief. So I grew up like very creative, very hands on. Like my mom is Pinterest as a person. She's like a kindergarten teacher and crafty. And then my dad was an electrical contractor. So my high school job was crawling around in the hot attics, fishing wire. Everyone else I knew worked in retail with like discounts and air conditioning.
Yeah.
So I learned power tools early on and I was kind of familiar with like home improvement, but didn't really like pick it up as far as like that's going to be my career. I went to college for business and then started out in oil and gas finance. So very different like path. But once I got into it, just kind of realized like that wasn't the industry for me. Like there's not a lot of potential for creativity there. So I started like a passion project, which at the time was a fashion blog, which is hilarious now because the outfits were truly terrible.
It wasn't good, huh?
Not good at all. But it was like creative experimentation. It's kind of like I look back with like, we were just trying to be creative and express
Yeah.
ourselves. And that is always bad at first, like no matter how good you are. So that was the beginning of my like influencer journey, I guess. And then I finally did like a home like decor post because we had just bought our first house in Denver and went to the design studio. We like built it and everything was like an add-on. It's like, do you want a garage door opener? Because that's an extra $100. So it's
Yeah,
like you're just like racking up all these things.
for
And
sure.
finally I was like, I think I could like do this. Like I think I could get tools and like make it custom myself. So project by project, tool by tool, here we are. And now we do it on the internet for all to see and teach people how to do it in their own spaces.
So how did you get into kind of this space where you're doing the videos? Obviously, you've been doing this a while, but like, how
Yeah.
did you start thinking, wow, this people will be really into this, learning this through like YouTube and things like that, and especially with women with doing
Yeah.
this?
I think growing up, like my grandpa was a woodworker and a home builder. My dad was a contractor, and it was a very like male dominated space. Like I remember my dad making me sit in the car when he went to like the home improvement store because he like didn't want people to check me out because it's just there's guys everywhere. And I think
Yeah,
being a feminine woman in this space is like very, I don't know, you feel very alone. It's like I don't want to put on
yeah,
a flannel and dress the part and look like, a woodworker girl. Although I have friends that do and they rock that and they're
yeah,
amazing. But I wanted to be like, you know what, you can show up however you want in a space that's traditionally been male dominated and traditionally been like, you learn tools from your dad. Well, it's like, why can't I teach women that may not have learned how to do it? Like, it's not rocket science. So that's kind of how we got here. Make it
yeah.
cute.
It's amazing, and I think I noticed that too. Is like, I think a lot of society today is changing the norms of like dress and wear.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think you epitomize that because you come in there, you're doing stuff with yoga pants,
And a
essentially,
sports bra. Yeah.
sports bra, and it's
Right.
like trendy, it's hip, it's sexy,
Yeah.
and tell me how that kind of the transformation for that started for you.
Yeah, at first I just like showed up exactly how I was and like didn't really
Yeah.
think a thing of it. And then I kind of realized like it started being really triggering to people. Like people were like, you can't wear that. Like that's not
Oh.
the right outfit for the job. And I'm like, but I did it and it looks really good. And this before and after, like critique that instead of what I'm wearing. Like we could talk about that. But it's just like the confidence to show up as yourself. And I think to do that in any space where there has been a traditional like workwear, unless it's literally like safety related. Like I
Yeah.
wear steel toe boots, when I first started, it was like there's barefoot and tennis shoes. It's like you got to be safe. But aside
Yeah.
from that, like show up as you are and you
Yeah.
deserve to be there because of skill, not because of your outfit. But yeah.
Okay, so the question is, were these, let's say, comments that were maybe not flattering, were they from men or women? Or like, who is this from?
Yeah, actually both. And that was
Really?
probably the
The
most
women too?
disorienting thing. Yeah. It's like guys being like, get in the kitchen, like you should go make a
Oh
sandwich. It's like,
man.
whatever. Like you can't do what I do. Or you're just like triggered, because this is supposed to be your job. But getting it from other women is, like, actually kinda painful. It's like,
Yeah.
man, like, are we so not brainwashed, but so, like, seeped in this stereotype that other women are trying to pull me down too, instead of realizing, like, "Wait, if she can do it in yoga pants, I can do it too." So,
That's
yeah,
surprising, honestly,
rough.
to me that
I know.
other women would be like, "Well, you're not wearing, like, the outfit,"
Right,
that
right,
you've just been socialized into it. That's
right.
basically what it is, you know?
Exactly. And I think especially for women maybe who've been told they can't show up in the space, like, no, gate kept from that. It's like, well, if she can do it, like she's breaking all the rules and I was told I wasn't allowed to do this. So there's kind of like pain around that. And that comes off as like coming at me instead of being like, wait a second, like I'm going to break the rules too. So, but that's my
Yeah.
goal is to help everyone reframe that.
So, obviously, and for the listeners, if you watch these videos, they're amazing, and you gotta have the time lapse thing going on, and it's
Uh-huh.
bursting through. Obviously, there's a lot of effort involved in this as well, but
Yeah.
for kind of your person who's like me, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. Like, I'm looking at it because 'cause I'm like, "I need to learn how to do this stuff."
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you how would you how do you get started? Like, it seems
Yes.
overwhelming. I've never been handy ever
Yeah.
in my life. So what's like a
Yeah.
good first step, you know?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. When I first started, I was scared to use a saw. Like I grew up around power tools, but I was terrified to cut wood because I was like, this is like dangerous.
Yeah.
I used to plan out the projects like so specifically and bring the list to Home Depot and have the guy like help me cut all the wood so I could bring it home and just like screw it together.
Right.
But it's like one project at a time and one tool at a time, and you build your skill set as you go. And one of the easiest projects to start with is probably furniture flipping, because you can get a dresser from Goodwill for like $40. So then if you mess it up, it's not like a big
Yeah.
investment, but just like sand it down, like practice using a drill to change the hardware, get a saw out and cut the legs off. And it's kind of like, well, that creative experimentation, but you're not messing up anything in your house before you know what you're
Yeah.
doing. But every single project, no matter what it is, like there's a part of it I'm still scared of, like, because I'm always pushing my limits and pushing my skill set to learn new things. So there's always a moment where I'm like, "Ugh, like, what did I get myself into? Like, can I actually do this?" But then it's like, let's pivot, let's find a way to problem solve, or let's call in help and admit that we took on too much
Yeah.
and we weren't ready. So, yeah, just
Furniture
get
flipping.
started.
That's interesting. Oh, that's part of my whole thing with my podcast is like I want to introduce people to things they're just not even thinking
Oh,
about,
you're
or they're
cutting out a little
like,
bit.
I'm not sure like how I would even begin something like this. So I think for me, it's all an education for me and the listeners of like, furniture flipping. You said that. I'm like, nope, don't know what that is. Like,
So, basically just buying, like, a rundown piece of furniture and
yeah,
fixing it up. Yeah, and so it's like, that could be just paint, that could be using power tools to cut it apart and make it different. Or yeah, I mean, simple, like, builds, like, you could build a bench, just a really simple top with screwing on some legs from Amazon
yeah,
or, hanging a gallery wall or there's a lot of yeah, I have, like, a lot of simple tutorials on my page to get people started, but usually it comes from a place of, like, function and necessity, like, people you look at your house and you're like, "Ugh, I wish that could be different." And then you're like, "Okay, well, what if I, like, did something about that?" And so then you get a project idea, and that's the best place to start because it's, like, actually something you're gonna use and be able to be
yeah,
proud of. So when you, like, look at it later, you're like, "I built that, like,
yeah.
I did that."
There's something satisfying like that. Like I'm very
Yeah.
good, like gardening. I love gardening
Uh-huh.
and building gardens and stuff like that. I feel pretty confident about that,
Yeah.
but it's like the inside the house,
Not
it's
so much.
like,
Well, we're opposite then because 'cause I'm not a great gardener. I can
wow.
keep the house plants alive, but the full garden is like, ooh.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm growing pumpkins, patches, everything. I'm
Yeah.
doing,
Oh
but
my
I
gosh.
never believed I had that skill, but I worked on it,
Right.
just like
Right.
this, but is some of this more natural for you than you would? Do you feel like you have this natural proclivity to be able to do this, or is it like all like, hey, I started from ground zero on this?
I mean, ground zero, but, like, the creativity has always been there. Like,
Okay.
having big, wild ideas, I feel like has always been a part of who I am. Learning to, like, put those into the actual world and, like, develop skills around, like, how to make them happen, that's where it was like, we're starting from 0. Like, I went to school for business, like I knew how to run Excel without a mouse, but like power tool, like that's not something we know. So yeah, I think it is part of it, identifying like the parts of your personality that you already have that you thrive at, and then finding where to fill in the gaps. And that's either education or asking for help, or yeah, just teaching yourself to do it and like strengthening those things that you're not naturally amazing at. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, you can learn to do almost anything. I mean, really
exactly.
can. I mean,
Yeah.
I learned to cut my own hair during the
Yeah.
pandemic.
And it looks amazing.
Right? Thank you. And I literally had to figure this out because I'm like, I'm not cutting my hair off. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna like,
Right.
I gotta figure this out. I went to YouTube and learned how to cut my hair, like how to,
Yeah.
and it took a while, but it's like I imagine it's very similar. Obviously,
Yes.
it's all everything's a skill almost.
Uh-huh.
It's like, how
Yeah,
do
I
you
think
get
when it
better at
comes to art, for sure. Yeah, it's like everything is a skill and you can learn it, and you have to go through that phase of like being bad or practicing or
it?
trial and error, and like let yourself be in that for a little bit. And I think when people don't want to do it, it's because they're actually afraid to be bad and afraid to
Okay,
like sit in that and mess up.
let's talk about that. This is
Yeah.
like this is a good life lesson here, right? I mean,
Yes.
you're gonna be bad at stuff when you have no experience with it,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of this, people don't like that. It's like when somebody's trying to grow their hair and it's like at a stage where it's just not good. You know,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
the
That's
same
exactly
thing. It's
it.
like, oh,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Well, and I think in a world where it's easy to brush over that process part, like see the before and after, or you see the time lapse that was 3 seconds when it actually took me like a month, it's like that's the video format because you can share it in that little bit, but we're glossing over a big part of like what it took to get there and all the uncomfortable, hard parts. So you just got to learn to sit in those.
now, but here's you know what? This is an interesting pathway of this. So, like,
Yeah.
if you look at a short and you see the time lapse on some, like, it's amazing, but on
Yeah.
another level, do you think people take that and go, "This is easy to do," like, they don't
Absolutely. Yeah.
understand the work? So it's
Right.
like, do you have to explain that though? That like what you're
Yeah.
telling me, how do you get that across to the audience?
Yeah, I think that's for me, I like put it in like the blog posts, like longer form, like YouTube, like actual tutorials or my stories when it's like I'm actually showing behind the scenes of like, look, I really messed up here. But
Yeah.
yeah, in the short form video, which is like what everything is pushed to, like YouTube, Pinterest, TikTok, Instagram, it is just like so brief and so quick. And
Yeah.
there's even been people that are like, I don't understand why you think this is so impressive. Like it's just basic home care. And I'm like, okay,
What?
like you do it. And then we'll talk.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
weird to
which is
say. I
fine.
mean,
It's like, yeah, it's a weird comment, but
that's
on the
weird.
some level, it's like it did look like that. Like the video made you think it was easy. And so that's, I guess that's fair.
So did you go into, let's say, like, obviously you've amassed a pretty large following. I mean, can you have imagined that this would happen for you? I mean, and like,
Not at all.
what was your intention initially with putting this out there through YouTube, Instagram, all that?
Yeah, I think just to share my journey. Like I think I knew how intimidated I felt to pick up tools and do it, and I looking around didn't see a lot of other women doing that. And so I was like, I just want to put it out there because maybe it will help someone. And it was just like fun to create the content and make the videos and sort of like just document the process for myself, but never did I plan on it being like my actual job or having like this many people be excited. But yeah, it's cool.
You know what? I've had a few. I like to talk to people who are kind of influencing in different areas,
Yeah,
and it's kind of the same thing. Nobody expects there to be this influence. They're
right.
like, I was just doing it. And then
Right.
somehow it started to come together. Like, what was the moment or the progression of moments when you started thinking, this is taking off for me as
Yeah.
a thing, an income source doing it this way?
Yeah. For me, that happened through brand deals, like brands coming to me and paying me to create videos, whether for my own channel or for theirs, but kind of realizing like there's actual value there, like they were offering me good money for that. And for like, it kind of had imposter syndrome. Like, do they
Mm,
know that I just like taught myself? But then I realized like they could pay a team of people $100,000 for a whole shoot,
right.
or they could pay me. And not only am I going to make the content, I also share it with an engaged audience. So like seeing that there's actually value there was kind of the moment I was like, wait, this is like a whole real thing.
It's a real thing. Now, what was there? What was the point where like that started coming? Like people started approaching you. Was it a certain number of subscribers or
Yeah.
a viewership? Because I think people are really interested in this, how people get to these type of points. I think you just see someone, you see Cara, you
Yeah.
see the 100,000, 200,000 subscribers, but people don't know the back end. They don't understand that. I
Right.
like to understand that for people. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. I think I don't know, it happened, like, naturally, and I think it happened because I was, like, so passionate in sharing that it kind of, like, draws that to you. It's like if you set out to build an amazing brand, you're focused on building an amazing brand. You're not focused on, like, the passion of it or the sharing part, and that's what really makes it successful. Like, that's why you are given the gift of having influence, is because you started out serving people and offering value. And so that's something I think a lot of people want, like a lot of people that've seen how much money you can make or like the idea of having a lot of followers. It's like they're too focused on achieving the influence itself, and they don't get that that's like a side effect that you
Mm.
earn by showing up and providing value or sharing like from an authentic place. And so you start there and then it'll all come, which seems like counterintuitive, but that works.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. It's a new world, right? Where people are making their living out of sharing content,
Yeah.
and things that maybe, you think of somebody 30 years ago would be like, no. I mean,
No.
it's not even a possibility. But I
Right.
think about like, have you faced resistance from, say, your traditional DIY based businesses who maybe are not leveraging this type of content?
A little bit. I think what I do is so weird because, like, there's a established industry that's so different, like contractors and people you hire. So what I do isn't, like, directly threatening to them, unless I could get everyone to do it themselves, but, like, there's actually an industry where you need to be educated, there's actual
Yeah.
safety regulations, like so it's, like, a little bit different, and I think there's a little bit of, like, backlash, like, there's a little bit of, like, "Who are you to be doing this? Like, your
Mm.
tool belt's too clean." It's like a
Oh,
comment we get a
okay.
lot, but that's, like, in the industry, like, you're known as the new guy if you show up with a new
Yeah.
tool belt, and so they say that to me, not realizing that it's a completely different ballgame what I'm doing, and mine's clean because I take care of it, like, it's 4 years
It's
old,
just not
like
sitting there forever. Right. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so there's a little bit of backlash, but not a lot. I think more inspiration and two very different worlds. Like a lot of contractors are not even touching social media because they're
Right.
so busy in the work. Like I remember my dad, his accounting system was like shoving the receipts in his truck door and then handing them to me at 12 years old to type them into Excel. It's like he was so into just the actual work that
Yeah.
social media for a lot of people is like, a different world. So,
Yeah. I think there's space for everyone.
yes,
There's the people who are doing what you're doing. There's other people who just want to work in the dark. They don't want to spend the time,
right,
and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's
right.
just everybody has different ideas and values that they want to achieve in life. And some of it
Yeah.
involves no type of publicity, you know?
Exactly. Like, social media is for sharing, but there's work that doesn't need to be shared, that is just the
Right.
work. So, that's valid, like, just because you don't see it.
Now, is
Yeah.
there any type of, do people discuss these like regulations or like safety and stuff? Because like I wouldn't go and like try to like change my plumbing. No matter
Right,
any video I saw, I wouldn't do it. I'd be like, I don't think so. It's
right.
like, is there an element of like of going too far? And you say, hey, I'm not going
Yeah,
to do this in terms of design because it's too far.
right. I mean, that is I don't do, like, all my own plumbing, and I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on my limits. Some people do not. But there's definitely like you have to know what you don't know. And you have to be willing to like call in help or like really spend time in the weeds learning. You either spend time or money if you like hit that wall, but you have to know what that is because if you get in over your head too much, like you will destroy your house or you will get hurt.
Right.
So I think having that fear and that kind of like moment of, oh, should I really do this? Like, that's good. That'll keep you safe. But I think it's like a larger life lesson of like knowing how to push your own boundaries. Like, how do you allow yourself to expand and grow in a productive and safe way without taking it too far too fast?
Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lot of lessons here, right? I
I
mean,
know.
it's
I have all the
like,
life lessons from doing it the hard way.
right. I mean, it's like staying in it when it's not going well,
Yeah.
it's like people just don't like failing at things or
Right.
not performing well. And then
Right.
knowing your limitations is like a
Uh-huh.
huge thing. Sometimes I think social media it's weird because like you think you can do things you can't do sometimes too.
Right. Right.
It's like, and maybe that's that's with the person. It's like maybe I should be more discerning about what I'm looking at as
Right.
well.
Yeah. And it might only be till you try it, you're like, wow, this is way harder than I
Yeah.
thought. And then it gives you respect for that person's skill set, being like, they made it look so easy. And it actually does take a lot of honed skill that I don't have.
Yeah. You know
But
what's a
yeah.
great video of yours I just watched recently was I think it was the dresser with the wallpaper.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, why didn't I think of that? Like that's like
Yeah.
that doesn't seem hard. Like I was like, I'm pretty
It's
sure I
not.
could do that,
You totally
right? It
could.
doesn't seem hard, but
No.
that was like an example of like that was very relatable, I felt.
Yeah.
That type of thing. And I think the average person would be like, okay, wallpaper, I put this on here. I could probably do that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for saying that. But yeah, I try to share projects that are just attainable for everyone. It's like anyone can put temporary wallpaper on a dresser. And
Yeah.
then I use like these miter shears, not even a power tool to cut the little trim. So, like, there's ways to customize your house and it doesn't take money or hiring out. Like, what you're actually lacking is creativity and
Mm,
intentionality. And that's the pieces you're missing, not money or tools or, yeah, anything big and crazy, which
yeah.
it's easy to jump to that and think like, "Oh, if I just had more money, if I just had my dream house." It's like, you can make it happen. You just have to want it and you have to be creative.
The money thing is a interesting thing. I have an episode with a guy he's a big tech millionaire guy, and then he had terrible spiraling depression from
Yeah.
working in Silicon Valley, and then he went
Wow.
and worked for Amazon warehouse, and he was like, it was terrible. But
Uh-huh.
he said it got him out of his depression.
Wow.
But the it's a great episode. I'm telling you, it's
I'll have to
amazing. You gotta check
listen.
it
Yeah.
out. But he said once you make money, and you're really comfortable and like you say, you're very wealthy, he said it's weird because then you don't have any excuses about money anymore. So then it
Right.
becomes about you, and maybe you're the
Uh-huh.
problem, not the money. I'm not saying
Right.
this is the same, but it's kind of like if you're always saying, well, if I had
It's
the money
similar.
to do
Yeah.
this project, if I had the money to do that, then I would do it. But what if you did and you still didn't do it? That's a you problem then.
Exactly. Right. And that really is kind of like the idea of limitations, right? It's like creativity actually thrives when there's constraints. If you had a blank canvas with all the money in the world, like that's actually a way harder project to tackle than having a very specific problem you have to solve. Like that makes creativity easier.
Yeah.
And so, but also along the idea of like your dream home, I always tell people like, you don't actually want that dream home with all the unlimited money. You want the version of yourself you think you'd be if you had that.
Mm,
So, like a tangible example, you want to have another room so that you can work out. You want to have the bigger kitchen so you could be a mom that cooks more. Like, what you want is not actually that big house. You want a better version of yourself.
mm,
And I think that's why I love DIY. It's because it's a tangible way to push your limits and get there, and that you can see the progress. Like you can see a before and after, where a lot of more like personal development stuff is a little more foggy or a little more
yeah.
conceptual. Like hands on, you see the progress. And I think that's really cool.
That's true. Yeah, and that's what's great about your videos is like you see the progress. And I
Yeah.
think that pushes people on when they see the progress. I mean, you can literally take
Right.
that to anything. Like in my business and fitness, sometimes it's difficult because let's go back to the bad thing. Initially, it may be very bad, and
Right.
you're not seeing the physical changes you want to see, but there's a lot of stuff happening internally
Right.
that you just don't seem to care about because it's not aesthetically pleasing to you. Like,
Right. Right.
but you got to spend the time. You have to
Exactly.
spend the time and you have to grind. when
Right.
doing that. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking about your creativity. How do you come up with the projects that you want to do? Is there like a drawing board, or how do you create that creativity? What's the setting you create or the vibe you create to get that to that point?
Yeah. So for me, I always like to try to solve a problem. I like to start with function. Like, what do I want out of this space? Or if
Mm,
I'm doing it for someone else, like, what do they need to support their actual everyday life? And then we can make it pretty. So then it's like, okay, well, here's the list of things they need, like, how could we aesthetically make those look cool or be really interesting? Like, have a function that you're like, whoa, I didn't expect that, or kind of fit their style. So it's first like, sitting down and writing a list of like everything you're going to do in that room or that little space, that little corner you're making over, and then thinking of like what design elements can we add to make that happen. And I think a lot of people do it backwards where they go to Pinterest and they start like pinning everything, or Instagram, you see a project and you try to like copy and paste it into your house and then it like doesn't work out and you wonder why, and it's because you didn't start with you
mm,
started with what it looks like or what someone else did that you were inspired by, but that's not like your own creative process. And I learned that the hard way by like copying and pasting projects that I saw into my house and then being like, "Oh, this actually doesn't work." And why is that? So,
yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting. So
Mhm.
let's talk about the Make Space podcast here.
Yeah.
And so was that a natural outgrowth of the work you had been doing online, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so I had had a podcast before it called Blogged, and it was all about like influencer stuff. Um And so that kind of burned me out. So then
Mm,
when it came time, I was like, I really loved podcasting. Like I loved all the people I got to meet and just the networking and just sharing like in that way, like long form. So I was like, okay, I'll do it again, but this time it'll be just like exploring home decor and creativity and like everything around that. And then I was really fortunate to have some really cool guests early on, like Leanne Ford from HGTV, and Hilton Carter, who's like an incredible plant stylist. And so it's like once you get a few cool people, it's like easy to convince everyone to come
yeah.
talk to you. Um, but yeah, I think it's like if you have a natural curiosity for learning, to get to sit down and like talk to people and ask them, it's just like a magical job. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like just a blessing to get to know what they know. And so I kind of did it like selfishly, like, I could not get these people to give me an hour of their time. But if I feature them, then like suddenly they're all in and they're so excited. So it was a little bit selfish, but that's how
Yeah.
that came about.
My podcast is all about my selfishness.
Right? Like own
I'm
that.
even write it in the description. This is
Right?
about me.
Yeah.
I'm learning from other people. If you
Uh-huh.
want to learn too, great. You can come on, you can listen, the whole thing. And I have no problem with that. But it's funny, like
Yeah.
people will say yes more often than they'll say no. I've experienced that at least, you
Yes.
know.
I don't think I've had one person tell me no, and it felt like, "Oh, it's just not a fit." But it's like, yeah, people are when they're passionate about something, they're excited to share, and so just asking someone to share is usually like an easy yes. Like, of course, I will come talk about
Yeah.
myself and my work for an hour, like,
Yeah.
it's the easiest yes ever.
I wonder if you had this. Maybe you don't want to talk about this, but I'll definitely talk about it. It was
Can you still see me?
like I've
There we
had
go.
some like really large people on, and I find that like it wasn't that interesting. Like actually feel like the people who are not as huge are more interesting in a
Yes.
sense. I felt like the bigger the person gets, the less interesting the conversation was. I'm not saying that's for a lot of people. I'm just saying for me, it's less interesting for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what you've experienced with that. Obviously, you don't want to like say anything, but I'd rather talk to people who are kind of like not so huge. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just a different thing,
I think
like
the reason why is because, like, yeah, I think when you're huge, you're too far removed to what it's like to start, so it's, like, harder to relate, where if you get someone in the middle, it's like you could really see yourself in their shoes, and their advice is, like, a lot more relevant to where you are, where if it's someone, like, huge, it's like it's been a while since they were a beginner, and they probably have forgotten what it's even like, so, yeah,
isn't that a
that's what
strange
I think
phenomenon?
anyway.
That's a
Yeah.
strange phenomenon though. Like you get to a certain point and it's like you're not relatable to people, general
Yeah.
public anymore. I find that
Yeah.
strange, you know.
It's so weird. And I feel like that's like social media is kind of moving that way with like TikTok. It's
Oh,
like
really?
we
Yeah.
don't relate to the big influencers. And so TikTok is like everyday. Oh, can you still hear me?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Cut out a
yeah.
little bit. Okay, I was saying like TikTok is like the everyday person in their house, and then them blowing up and becoming an influencer is like more relatable than people that have been doing it for like 10 years that have a whole lifestyle that none of us can touch. So, yeah. I think we like it better when people we can see our story in them. And so you get to a certain level and it's like I don't have 6 houses and 27 cars. So I don't know what that's like. Like
A
I
lot of work.
wish.
That seems like a lot of work to me. I
Yeah,
don't know. I
like I will
mean,
come if you invite me, but how do you clean them?
how do you yeah, with a lot of help, I'm sure,
Yeah, uh-huh.
with
You have
that.
to.
But do you ever think about that for yourself though? It's kind of like you obviously you're fairly popular. I mean, you have a large following and you continue on this trajectory, it's going to get bigger. Like it
Mhm.
is. And have you
Yeah.
thought about that? Like what that means?
Yeah. Um, I think that's just like the natural evolution of things, right? It's like gonna get bigger. So my thing is like, how do I still engage people that are just starting in an authentic way? Like, how can I make sure to serve them so that I don't become too detached? And then my work is weird because it's like I still do so much of it myself. I'm not like hiring people to come redo the rooms. So I feel like I'm still in it a lot like day to day and still remembering what it's like to like be just starting. Um but yeah, I it's weird because it's like as you expand, you really start thinking about like what do I want the impact to look like? Because you start hitting metrics of like gaining 100,000 followers and
Sure.
this and this and this. And you think you'll be like a different person or it'll feel a certain way and then it doesn't and you're the same person and it
Yeah.
didn't really like change your life that much. And so then it's like, okay, well that's cool, but that's not the focus anymore. Like
Yeah.
growth isn't the focus, impact is. And what does that look like? And for me, yeah, it's just empowering everyday people to take charge of their spaces because I think it's a form of self care. Like
Yeah.
caring for your house and setting that up to support you is just like self care. Like we set goals for our career and our fitness and our finances, but we don't set goals for our house. And we kind of just think it's going to work itself out, but you got
Yeah.
to do it. Yeah.
Most definitely. It was interesting. I've been in the training business for over 20 years and I've never stopped training. And
Yeah.
that's on purpose because I
Yeah.
feel like once I stop doing that and I just do the executive work that I do in addition, like I'm going to lose the sense of relatability to my peers in the training
Right.
aspect of it.
Yeah.
But I know so many people that they almost try to get out of that. Like they don't want to be doing the groundwork forever. They want to aspire to be, CEO, executive, or consulting and all that. I've tried to always do both because I want to be relatable. But I wonder, is there a time when you feel like you're not going to be doing projects yourself?
Yeah. I think when I'm physically unable to, I will stop.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
that's, I might be 70 or 80, but I think I'll always be doing something because for me, that hands on is so good. Like it's so
Yeah.
magical and kind of therapeutic. So yeah, no one can get me to sit down. So
I like that because
keep going.
I don't know. Can you imagine a life where you're just like consulting for people and you're
No,
not
dude.
doing any more of these videos? Like you're just doing
No.
like, big brand stuff. It would seem like
Yeah.
antithetical to like who you are,
Right.
you know?
Exactly. It's like, yeah, at my core, it's what I do. And I think some people are maybe meant to move through like these
Mm,
really complete eras, and then
yeah.
move on to the next one. But I'm not. I'm supposed to be just in it.
Yeah. I feel like we're
So
similar in
yeah.
that. Like I need to be in it. I need to be training
Yeah.
people. I need to like
Right.
feel that. I need to have that
Yeah.
connection. And
Yes.
I'm doing other stuff that's more executive corporate but it's just like I don't want that lack of relatability
Right.
that it's like somebody who was in something 30 years ago and they still think it's the same because they're not doing
Right.
it anymore. you know
Exactly. Yeah. They're teaching you the strategies from 30 years ago. You're like, that doesn't work anymore. Like
yeah.
at all.
It's so do you attend, is there like DIY conferences and things like that that you go to continue to push yourself? Well, how does that work for you, kind of the continuing education?
Yeah, there's a couple, not really a lot out there. I go to one called Workbench. It's in Atlanta, and it's like a lot of like wood shop owners that just like sell cutting boards or cool things on Etsy that are kind of learning to share their process and the social media side. So that I don't totally fit in because there's not too many like home people. But other than that, I go to like creative conferences, just kind of like women in business or podcasting ones, or just kind of to network with other creatives. Because yeah, the work is so much of just like trial and error and teaching myself, like we're doing it ourselves. So there's not a lot of like formal education. Although I want to change that. I want to do like a power tool course for women
Ooh.
to walk you through your first 6 tools and how to do them. So
How about for guys who don't know how to do that?
listen, everyone can come. It won't be for just women. It'll be for everyday people. We'll say that.
It's just a stereotype, I think, for guys, that guys just should know how to like change a tire, or the guy should know how to like fix things in the house. I've never known how to do any of that,
Yeah.
honestly, and I
No.
know I'm not alone. There's other guys who don't know
Yeah.
what they're doing at all.
Listen, I married a city boy. He could barely use a drill, and he doesn't like when I say that, but it's true. He's scared of the saw. He'll like flinch when I'm using it. He's like, "Oh." And that's okay. Like those sort of tasks shouldn't be dueled out like to who which gender
Right.
wants to do them. It's like you want to, or you want to hire help. Like pick what you're gonna
Yeah.
do.
Well, I think that's a good thing about this age, Ren. We're trying to break these traditional, gender roles or stereotypical things that we have essentially just assigned people. I mean,
Right.
we've not thought about it. We've just assigned it to
Right.
people. And I think there's the
And
growing pains, and that is that some people still believe they should be assigned to this type of person, this gender, and the whole
yes.
thing.
Right. And what I've realized is like that that worldview for them was very limiting and constricting in some way. And they've lived that way. And so to think that now the rules have changed is kind of hard. Like it's hard to wrap
It's
their
hard.
head around because they're like, wait, but I was so hurt and damaged by having to live this way. And now you get to just do what you want. Like it doesn't seem fair. But yeah, it's like you can do it too. It's time.
Yeah, most definitely. So power tools course, that's interesting. Any other, what are the projects that you're like really thinking about, or what is the penultimate thing you want to do?
Yeah. Well, right now I'm flipping a house from it was built in 1840.
Whoa.
It is a dumpster fire, like total mess. The basement is like the most horrifying thing I've ever seen ever. But I'm turning it into what I hope to be like an Airbnb. It's in this really cute little downtown in South New Jersey. Um, which I just moved from Texas. It's like a whole new world up here.
Yeah.
But I want to do more like real estate investing and still do like all the projects and all the hands-on, but then be able to like rent out these spaces later and host people. And my dream is that I'll have like QR codes in all the rooms so you can see like how it was made and like how I did it. So it'll be kind of like a cool experience. So
That's
yeah.
amazing. That's a great
Yeah.
idea. Like,
Right?
imagine doing that, your picture, and you're like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, that's like
Uh-huh.
amazing. That's like
Yeah.
crazy, actually.
It'll be like a museum, but you get to stay there. So we'll see.
Okay. Okay. You just blew my mind with that. That's amazing. A museum, but you get to stay there. Hmm. See, this is why I do this, because I'm not thinking about this stuff. Like,
Oh, you're cutting out.
it's
Can you
not even
still
in
hear
my
me?
mind that this is happening. Yeah, it's not even in my mind that that stuff's happening.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I would never think about it that way. What's
Uh-huh.
this? I think we're limited
Yeah.
by our brains, and a lot of times in our
Yes.
experiences, you
Yes.
know, and you only know what's in front of you or what you have been exposed to in your life.
Right. Right.
That's why, like, I wasn't even looking for you. You just popped up in my YouTube, and I was like, who is this? And I was like, DIY interior design, and for some reason it just spoke to me.
Yeah.
It
Like the
just spoke to
universe
me.
put
Yeah.
us together. Yeah.
And I was like, and
It's
this is
cool how
how I
that
am.
works.
If I like something, I just go for it. There's no
Right.
fear. I was like,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to reach out. I got to figure out how to reach this person. And then I'm going to
Right.
send off something. Either they say yes or no. If no, it's okay. If
Yeah,
yes, something
but
good will
you gotta
happen.
shoot. Yeah, I love that so much. That I feel like the best opportunities for me have kind of just like come along, and then you just have a gut feeling, and you're like, whoa, like okay, we'll do this.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Well, you've done such a great job, Kara.
Oh,
Seriously,
it's still cutting out.
it's literally like such an amazing channel and following that you've created. It's really
Oh,
well done. Seriously, it's
thank you
amazingly
so
well done.
much. I think the same of you and your like podcast group.
Thank
It's
you.
so you're such a, like a good networker of like putting people together and connecting them. That's like a really special skill I don't
Thank
have.
you.
I'm like a researcher, I like hide in a hole, but you like watching, yeah, it's so cool. It's like to have met all these people and be like, you and you need to connect, and
Yeah,
you and like, yeah,
that's
that's
like a
so cool.
natural thing for me. That feels
I know.
natural. So I'm just like, oh, let's put this person together. You should
Yeah.
talk to this person. And
Right.
ultimately, it just helps everybody out,
Yeah, it's so
So
easy and effortless though. I'd have to have like a spreadsheet, and I'd have to be
spreadsheet.
like, okay, you and you. It's like it'd be so much work.
I just think it just pops in my mind. I'm like, you two, you need to talk. This person, you need to talk. It's just for me, it's just I just think of people and then it just
Right.
comes to me with
Yeah.
that. So, I mean, I think a lot of people would benefit from what you're doing. Um, like literally anybody. And I think because people need to have shelter
Mm,
and people want to make their shelter look like how they feel. They want it to feel warm
right.
and inviting and
Yes.
they want it to feel like them. That's their imprint that they put on their shelter. And you're
Hmm.
helping people with that. So I would love for you to chat a little bit. Just tell me a little bit about how people can connect with you, how they can spend time learning more about what you're up to. And so give them all of your social media channels, the whole thing. Let's run through it.
Oh, you're cutting out a little bit.
Oh,
Sorry, I
sorry.
missed the last part.
No, I was just saying if you could just run through a little bit how people can connect with you
Oh
and
yeah.
learn more about you.
Okay, well, if you want to just watch fun videos or get inspired for home decor, you can find me on Instagram at Never Skip Brunch. Or my website, also Never Skip Brunch, has like a lot of tutorials. Excuse me. My website has a lot of tutorials for like getting started with tools and decorating your house. And then I have a book on Amazon. It's actually a guided journal, and it's all about like how to get clear on what you want out of your house. So if you're scared to pick up tools, you don't even know where to start, that might be a good place because you kind of sit down and figure out like, what do I actually want my house to be? And then you can start making that happen hands on. So yeah, follow me on
Lovely.
Instagram and we can be friends. And I'll show you how to use tools.
And I mean, I
Yeah.
can vouch for that. Kara's awesome. When I reached out to you, you got back to me and pretty quickly
Oh, it's
actually.
cutting out again.
When I reached out, you got back very quickly and your team and you're just easy to work with. And I'm just grateful that we got to spend some time chatting here today. So thank you so much, Kara, for spending some time with me today.